Are you still walking along the path to find out what your life's mission is? It may be closer than you think. Welcome to Mission Possible program with your host, Carolann Fernandes. Everyone has a true calling. Join us now and find yours. Now, here is Carolann Fernandes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mission Possible program. Glad to be with you. I'm your host, Carolann Fernandes, and the author of the book, Mission Possible, A Guide to Discovering Your True Calling. With me today is Jeroen de Wit, who originally hailed from the Netherlands. He is a past life regressionist and a level 3 facilitator of the Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, which was developed by the late renowned hypnotherapist Dolores Cannon, whom he studied under. He is also certified in Reiki, EFT, EMF balancing technique, and quantum touch healing. Jeroen has also studied Kriya Yoga, Satnam Rasayan, shamanism, bioenergetics, and other modalities. Additionally, he holds a bachelor's degree in art therapy and a master's degree in spiritual psychology. He says all these wonderful tools are used in the service of love to help others and himself live more authentically. Welcome, Jeroen.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Carolann, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's quite a list if I hear it listed like that when you sum it all up. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And just a quick note for the audience, your name is almost spelled like Jerome, but it is pronounced Jeroen, which you say is a pretty common name in the Netherlands, right?
Yes, thanks for clarifying that. It's a tricky name here in the United States, but it's a very common name where I'm from. And it's pronounced almost like the word maroon, where you interchange the M with a Y, so Jeroen.
Oh, that's good. That's the way you like it.
You never knew.
No. So, Jeroen, I believe that every one of us has a mission, a purpose, a unique contribution to make, and that our life experience prepares us for what we're here to do, and that when the time is right, our mission will make itself known to us. And you have certainly stepped into your mission, and you are making your contribution. So let's explore some of your life experiences that led to the unfolding of your mission. And you had stated, and I'm cool, and I'm quoting you here, as a child, I retained an awareness of the more subtle layers of existence that we know so well before we incarnate into this physical reality. So talk about what that means, how old you were, and a little bit about your childhood.
For as long as I can remember, I kind of knew that there was more going on besides the physical world. I didn't have any proof of it, per se, in the external world, but I just knew. So I was always looking for it, and I was kind of puzzled why I couldn't find it. I was always looking into the hollows of trees to look for little chairs and tables for where the gnomes and the elves must have been, and of course never saw them. But that was my focus. I was trying to see beyond the physical, so it was just an innate knowing that I came in with.
And how old were you, more or less? Yes, absolutely. And how old were you, more or less, when you had that awareness?
It didn't dawn one day. My memory is that when I was like 3, 4, 5 years old, and we would go out and like forest walks, and that's when I would be, looking for those things. Somehow I knew they were in the forest. Yeah.
That's really, really quite precious. And you were sharing about share a little bit more about your parents, because one of the things you had mentioned is that they recognized in you a sensitivity, and they changed your school. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. I was a sensitive kid, meaning that they saw that I had a very detailed eye for, my environment, and that I had care for my environment, for animals, for nature. And, I used to be, drawing and doing art all the time, and the subjects that I drew or painted were always, love for animals, love for nature, togetherness. And so they saw that there was, they had a special kid kind of, and so they switched my schools from a more Catholic, sort of rigid elementary school to a more free, it's called the Yenaplan School in the Netherlands. It's a school that groups the different levels together, and there's more interaction, and there's more self-determination within the school curriculum. So you would sit with the teacher in the beginning of the week and figure out what it is that I thought I needed to do for math and for reading and for the other subjects, and then we'll just make a plan together, and then I was free to develop my own timing. And there was lots of theater and art involved as well.
I just think that is so precious, whether your parents recognized, your awarenesses. I just think that is so wonderful that they recognize the sensitivity and they switched you to a school that seems to be more in alignment with who you are and allowed you to develop that more fully. So I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah, my parents are amazing. They were really attentive to me as a child to sort of rearrange my external conditions, so school or whatever was going on outside of me, to accommodate for that to an extent.
Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful lesson for parents to really pay attention to their kids and see, what their kids are leaning into or their interests, et cetera, So I think that's a beautiful thing. So let's forward to your mid-20s, and you had done a seminar called Landmark. Tell us what occurred for you and a few of the healing modalities that you embarked upon to heal yourself.
Yeah, I see that period as my spiritual awakening, and spiritual awakening is a pretty word for usually gnarly experiences or nightmarish experiences. I was training at a dance school in Amsterdam at the time, and thought this is what I always wanted to do. But when I was in school, I was always trying to find ways to not be in class. And I spoke to the dean about it, and she recommended that I do the Landmark Forum, and so I did. And going through that forum, I came out of it thinking I was going crazy. I felt like the rug had been pulled from underneath me, and that reality as I had known it had completely shifted or been shattered for me. And so I was in this odd state that was very painful, where I felt like, any breath that I took or any step that I took was just kind of a lie. I felt suspended between life and death, kind of, and it was severe. I thought I didn't want to have to kill myself, but that's what it felt like I couldn't live in that state. So thankfully, a teacher at my dance academy noticed that something was off and contacted a psychic or a psychic healer, holistic healer, and I found out that way that I had been knocked out of my body. And later on in life, actually a couple of years back, through doing a Vedic astrology reading, I was told that coming into this life, I hadn't fully incarnated, that I had stayed sort of half outside of the body. And when the Landmark Forum happened, that I came more into my body, that my circuitry sort of came online, and it was just so painful to be here, to feel everything, both stuff that was going on outside of me in the world, but also my own feelings that had been suppressed for so long. Even though my parents were very accommodating in, getting into these different schools, I'm from a culture that really doesn't value expression of feelings, or is more rationally or cerebrally oriented. So I was not taught to really be with my feelings, to express them, to acknowledge them, and to validate them. And all of that sort of, feeling that all at once, it knocked me out of my body. And this holistic healer said that I was barely hanging on with my energy, that I was just connected with the crown chakra. I don't know if you have the kind of listeners that know what that means, but yeah, suffice to say that I was out of my body, and it felt horrible. And so I worked with him first. He gave me homeopathic little pellets, and they sort of brought me back into my body a little bit more. And I thought this whole Landmark thing, and my response to it was just a fluke, and that now, after this homeopathic treatment, everything would be back to normal. But that wasn't the case. I then embarked on a long journey of having to, feel my feelings, learn to feel them, and then learn to express them, learn to validate them, to build confidence. So looking back, what I needed to do is to sort of reparent myself, to raise myself from the ground up and to start validating all the needs and feelings that I hadn't been able to address because I wasn't really in the body in the first part of my life. And so first I accessed, this holistic healing that this healer did with me. And then I used bioenergetics to help me feel my feelings. I worked with a wonderful therapist back in Amsterdam who specialized in this. And then a little bit later on, Reiki came into my path. Through a friend, through traveling, I met someone who was doing Reiki and so told me about it. And I ended up working with his Reiki master in Canada, in Toronto. My job at the time allowed me to visit the States and Canada very often. And so I was able to get attuned to Reiki 1, and then this particular Reiki master would facilitate group Reiki healings. And they were very process-oriented, where we would process material in our consciousness that had not been addressed in order to heal from it and to feel more free within the body. And so I was able to experience my own healing journey in these workshops, and also facilitate them for others. And I was really in awe of all the very personal, customized ways that people have their healing experiences. It was really, I thought it was really beautiful, and it was then that I realized that this is what I wanted to do. That I wanted to, feeling the expansion or empowerment or, self-assuredness or more confidence come in for myself. I wanted to do this for other people because, I experienced so much benefit of this. And so when we would do these healings, part of that was that people would go into past life experiences. And I thought this was really fascinating because as a kid, I'd always been looking for other realms beyond the physical and knowing that they were there. I didn't really have any proof of this until at 8 years old, I found a book by the Monroe Institute about out-of-body experiences. So at 8 years old, I read the whole thing, and I just knew this resonated so much. Like finally, there's proof of this really existing. And then, and then I started my healing journey in my Chinese, like I just explained, and did Reiki. And from Reiki, I did what was the next one? EMF balancing technique, quantum touch. I dabbled in the other ones that you mentioned, and then in 2006, I found out about Dolores Cannon, the Past Life Regression that I do now.
So I just want to recap, because while you were healing yourself, what I find so amazing and so powerful is that life seemed to lead you from one healer to the next. Like it was very synchronistic. So as you're healing yourself, it's also part of your powerful journey. And it seems to have been, like I said, very seamless for you.
Yes, it didn't feel seamless for me because I was like out of my mind panicking, in those places of turmoil. But looking back, for sure, this is what happened. So when I was dropped into that nothingness or this void of like not knowing what the hell was going on, I did have that holistic healer come in who helped me with that. And then I went online and was just trying to Google my condition, and magically this bioenergetics popped up, and the therapist that I found was just down the street from me back in Amsterdam. And then I got a job that allowed me to travel, and that enabled me to work with this phenomenal Reiki master. Her name is Anita Levin. She's in Toronto. And then, being attuned to this healing process, the other people that were teachers were brought into my perceptual field, and I noticed them. And, I had learned by then to trust this, to just go for what made me feel good or what I wanted to do. There was joy about this. There was, it was attractive to me. I was still working, sort of system jobs or just jobs to make money, but knowing that this is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be helping other people to heal. And so these experiences, looking back, were brought to me one after another. And this is ongoing because I think this is what's happening in all of our lives.
Yes, I completely concur. So you mentioned Dolores Cannon, and I think that's a very, from my perspective, I call that the initiation into the mission. So based on my research, everyone who has stepped into their calling has an experience that is like a defining moment. And so talk about your initiation. You were doing some healing with a friend, and tell us what occurred and how Dolores Cannon came into your life.
Yeah, so by that time, this was 2006, my spiritual awakening happened in 1996, so it was 10 years later. I had been on a healing path and accessed all these different modalities, both to, first of all, to heal myself, and then to start to try and help other people do the same thing. And so I was very attuned to different ways of healing, and one of my friends back in Amsterdam had set up a practice with scalar wave technology, Dr. Royal Midwife and Dr. Holder Clark technology, vibrational medicine to heal. And so one of those machines is like two giant coils that you sit in between, and it sends electromagnetic frequencies through your body, and it's just a really wonderful experience. But anyway, that's the practice that I was at. And he had some books laying around, and I was waiting for my turn, and then there was one book with like an alien on the cover, and it said Custodians, Dolores Cannon. I was like, oh, alien, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about. So I picked it up, started reading, and it completely sucked me into the story. I wasn't an avid reader anymore, but I just devoured the whole thing from cover to cover. I asked to borrow the book, read it, and then ordered more books, read about Dolores Cannon and the phenomenal work that she was doing, accessing different layers of our own consciousness, different worlds even, through her clients under hypnosis, performing what was then called Past Life Regression. And all of the schooling I had been in up until then had been, I was like a C student, writing my reports in the train on the way to school, or studying, the night before my test, and really not very interested in the material that I was being given to learn until I found out about this Dolores Cannon's work and what she did. I was reading that book, Custodians, and, I had to know, where is this lady? What is she up to? I need to learn to do what she does. And is this possible? All these questions came in, Googled her, found out that she was teaching all around the world, different places, but that she was going to be in The Hague, which is close to Amsterdam, where I lived at the time, teaching this course. So, contacted the office, signed up. The eligibility requirements had just been eased to where I was now eligible to take this course. You used to have to be a hypnotherapist working with clients for at least a year, and now they have been made easier where you had to be in a therapeutic relationship with clients for at least a year, which I had done as part of my art therapy training. So I was eligible to take this class and went to The Hague, super excited. I have never been more focused on a teacher or the information that was coming through them than those days in her class. I was very much locked on target. I felt like all my senses were completely absorbing everything there was to absorb. I just loved it. So, yes, for sure, that is, I would say, my initiation, finding out, finding a big piece of myself outside of myself that was shown to me, and it resonated with me. I knew this was it. This was for me.
I just think that is so beautiful and just right on in terms of the research that I was looking in terms of my own research, because when I talk about initiation, one of the ways that people are initiated is through what I call an extreme fascination. And that's what you seem to embody. Like you came in contact with the work and all of a sudden you were just captivated by that. And the other thing that I find so amazing, miraculous, synchronistic, however you want to say it, and I know Dolores was traveling around the world, but she really came from Arkansas, right? And here she is
right.
in the Netherlands, like right in your backyard. So as soon as you learn about her, there she is, and you can take her course. I just find that amazing.
Yeah, it was. I think that's what life has shown me. Like I love, by the way, your terminology, like extreme fascination, because that is totally what it was. And that had never happened to me before, and it was a very telling moment for me. But yeah, the life sort of brought the right people to me at the right time, and I've learned to trust it, to go with the ease and the extreme fascination, as you so beautifully call this.
And the other thing that I want to acknowledge you for is when the initiation first occurs, the next stage from what I saw in my research was that people take action. And you certainly did. It's like someone lit a fire under you and you started, like you said, reading all those books and you sign up for the course and then you're working and doing regression sessions on family members and friends. And I just think that's amazingly wonderful. Can you speak to that part of yourself that suddenly got motivated?
Yeah, it was two-sided because, I had been in this world for so long where I had been longing and looking for this otherworldly experience and not being able to tap into it until I started doing my own spiritual awakening and doing all the healing. This is when it began to dawn, in my life that I could access it and experience it and work with it. And then, this was not a full-time occupation. I just started practicing on other people and doing it as a side hustle. I was still, working, like kind of menial jobs to make my money, to be able to exist. And so, and not liking that, not liking where I was working, and just, when this other more expansive material surfaced, this past life regression, this is all I wanted. This was just sheer joy to me. So it was not hard for me to do as much of it as I could because it felt so good. I loved it. My interest was there, like you said, extreme fascination. So, it might have been hard because of resources and time available, but whatever time I had, I would dedicate to that. I was reading. I was trying to practice as much as I could. I just loved it.
And beautifully put, because I think when people are on purpose, when they find their mission, that's what happens. We just get completely engaged, and no matter what the challenges or obstacles are, we find a way to do it because we're so captivated by the thing that we're here to do without maybe fully realizing it in the moment.
Right.
So anyways, we're about to take a quick station break, and you are listening to Mission Possible program on voiceamerica.com, the Empowerment Channel. I'm your host, Carolann Fernandes, in conversation with Jeroen de Wit. When we come back, find out how he quit the job he hated and stepped fully into his mission.
Connect with us, and we'll connect with you. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is on LinkedIn. Get the first word about happenings with the network, where our next live event will be, and what's up with our hosts. Look up Voice America on LinkedIn.
Are you tired of your job? Do you feel like you were meant for more? Would you like to live life on your terms? You can when you actualize your true calling. You can be financially sustainable. You can live a meaningful life. You can love what you do, even make a difference and leave a luminous legacy. Drawing from over a decade's worth of research, her immense wisdom and cross-cultural life experience, Carolann guides, encourages, and inspires individuals to awaken to their purpose and actualize their life's mission. For those seeking to deepen their understanding and learn more, please visit Carolann.global. For information about programs, coaching, and local workshops, or to purchase her book, Mission Possible, A Guide to Discovering Your True Calling, or to invite Carolann to speak at your event, please visit Carolann.global. Again, that's Carolann.global.
On the Right Road with host Paula Phillips has arrived at Voice America. With remarkable heart and realness, this popular program brings inspiration, ideas, opportunities, and help to teachers and parents around the globe who work daily to guide kids on the right road in school and in life. Join the Right Road family of kindness, uplifting, and support. Tune in to On the Right Road, live every first and third Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, on the Voice America Empowerment Channel.
You are listening to Mission Possible program. To reach Carolann Fernandes or her guest on today's program, please call 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd like to send an email, the email address is radiomissionpossible@gmail.com. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Mission Possible program. I'm your host, Carolann Fernandes, speaking with Jeroen de Wit, who has actualized his mission as a past life regressionist. So, Jeroen, you ended up moving to the U.S. Again, all of that happened in an incredibly synchronistic way. Tell us a few of the highlights on how it unfolded for you.
Sure. So dance got me to the United States. I used to be a dancer, and I had met a woman who's now my friend, a choreographer that was working and living in Amsterdam as well at the time. And I ended up working for her as a dancer and becoming friends, like I said. And then she moved back to the States, to Los Angeles. And we remained friends, so we remained in contact. And then she asked me to come to Los Angeles to be part of a show, a short dance film that she was filming with her husband. And of course, that sounded super fun to me. So I created space and time in my job that I was working at and went to Los Angeles. And I'd been to the East Coast many times and loved it. But when I got to Los Angeles, it was just an immediate, like, oh my God, this is where it's at. Like I'd always been Californian at heart, and I finally felt like I was in the right place. And I also started realizing how being in the Netherlands had never felt like my home or my home culture. I always felt slightly depressed and uncomfortable with the culture. And when I got here, it all sort of made sense to me. I cried my eyes out on the way back in the plane, knowing that it's done. You know, my heart, my soul, my body, everything said that you can't do this anymore. You cannot live in that place anymore. It's over. And so when I got back, I had a session with a psychic that I've been working with, and not telling her anything about this, but she mentioned that, like, you're done in Amsterdam. This is over. You need to find a new place. You've done everything that's for you that there was to do here. It's time for something new. And so at that time, the housing corporation I was renting from paid me to move because they wanted to sell the building or do something else with it. So they gave me a chunk of cash. Also, I got an inheritance, and then I had a job lined up. So my friend that had moved back to LA, who was a choreographer, she also opened up a spa with her husband and asked me to come over and work for them. So it was sort of, I was looking at it, how it all unfolded. Also, my partner, my boyfriend at the time, who I'd been with for, 10, 11 years, moved back to his native Curacao in the Caribbean. He wanted to, because life for him as well stopped in Amsterdam, and he wanted to go back to where he came from. And for a while, I was trying to get a foothold in Curacao so we could be together, and I could work there, but it just did not flow. I felt like I was knocking on closed doors, and they wouldn't open. And of course, when the job opening in Los Angeles opened up, then it seemed like that was my path. And of course, there was so much joy for me in that path. So I took the jump. I wrapped up my life in Amsterdam and jumped and landed in LA. And it's been a love story ever since. I love being in California. I love Los Angeles. I love my life here. It's the first place that I've ever felt at home.
I just have to say, wow, I'm kind of blown away that your building paid you. You got an inheritance. You got a job lined up here, and your relationship moves away. That is stunning. That is amazing. Just the alignment of everything to bring you here.
I felt like it was very customized because if I didn't have any security there, I wasn't in a place of trust yet to the degree where I could have just jumped without any sort of, something to look forward to or some financial security. I don't think I would have done it. But, I mean, it was so abundant on all sides. Like, you're going. Like, it's almost like I was looking at my life. It was all happening. I couldn't even process it, both my relationship was sort of, we were in different geographic places. We hadn't decided to break up, but it just happened. He moved back to Curaçao, and there I was in Amsterdam. There was more space being created there, and then all the money coming in, and then the job lineup. It was like, wow, I felt like I was carried forward by very loving and caring hands. That's what I remember feeling it like, and not really understanding what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I love it. You were so supported. Spirit so supported in your process and bringing you here. Amazing.
Right.
But and I really want to highlight that, because I feel like when we are on purpose, when we are moving along toward our mission, those sort of alignments start happening. That grace starts unfolding. So that's really beautiful.
Right.
So along our journey to our mission, so you were here in LA and you're working at the spa, and you were doing some Reiki and some past life regression sessions whenever you got a chance. And I feel that on our journey towards our mission, we get a confirmation that we're on the right track. Talk about the past life regression that you did for Kathy Bird and what it confirmed for you.
Yeah, so I was merrily past life regressioning as much as I could while still working at the spa, for quite a number of years. And after a number of years, it got old. I didn't like it anymore. It was not a good fit for me anymore. I mean, I loved the environment and the clients were really lovely, but just the job was too confining, and it didn't really allow me to channel all of who I felt myself to be. There was more to it, and I felt stuck, stuck in life. And so, at one point, Kathy Bird steps into my office and tells me this amazing story about her son, telling her about his past life memories as Lou Gehrig, tall German baseball player, and her whole process with this. In the beginning, that she couldn't believe it, but that there were so many instances and details that this kid told her about that he couldn't have known about at his tender age. So finally, through a friend that had done a regression with me, she was prompted to come and see me. So we did the regression, and she did end up in this past life where she was Christina Gehrig, Lou Gehrig's mom. She knew everything about their life together. She knew all the family names, even spoke a little bit of German in the sessions. I mean, amazing session that was super detailed. Yeah, it was really, and this is not happened since, where people have such an amount of detail come in. Well, that's not true, but this is not, a standard session. It was quite remarkable. And so she comes in 2 more times, and we would go back to the same life. Now, as a QHHT practitioner, you do not tell people where to go. You don't tell them, go to that lifetime. You let it be up to their higher self, their higher consciousness, their soul, or subconscious mind, as we call it. So it would bring forth these scenes of her lifetime as Christina Gehrig, because she was his mom. She was her son's mom in that different lifetime as well. So they came back in sort of the same configuration. They were doing the same son and mom relationship over again. It is common that we travel with the same souls, but we try out different relationships. So where you are son and mother in one lifetime, you might try out like being lovers in the next one, or just close friends, or student and teacher. You just try different things. So we do these sessions, and I asked her herself at one point, like, why are we going back to the same lifetime over and over and over again? And I was told that she was to write a book about this experience and use all the details that she had sort of mined from this experience to go fact check them with still living descendants and relatives, and then write a book about it, to give more sort of credibility and accessibility to the sort of past life regression, reincarnation concept, to make it more accessible to more people, because it involved baseball and it had this level of credibility or verifiability to it because of the details that she unearthed in the sessions. So she did, and she might be another great guest for you to talk to, because I watched her process from looking at it, and I saw her pull in these amazing editors and all these people, Wayne Dyer that she met, and the book won the Hay House writing contest, and it was published. So it seemed to just move. Fast forward to my confirmation, as you said. So when I was completely fed up with working at the spa and finally decided, like, no more of this, I can't do this any longer. So I finally acknowledged my own feelings, telling myself that I should trust my own feelings of depression and sadness and just frustration of being in jobs that I didn't like and quitting the jobs that this book came out. My level 3 certification came in, and people started calling me more and more and more, to where the Past Life Regression work started pushing out the other jobs that I've been hanging on to. I was using Uber at the time to supplement my income, but that got pushed out really quick to where I started booking out, weeks into months. And so my work as a regressionist was completely on the rails, and it was both the book and the certification coming in at the same time. This was in early 2017 that my practice became full-time. So that I saw as a big confirmation.
Well, first I want to say that story by Kathy Bird is really stunning, and I know a lot of people are really blown away by it. I saw Jack Canfield's reaction to her story, and I think that's amazing that it all unfolded with you. I was wondering, you talk about the process you went through. Well, you mentioned the process that you went through in terms of quitting your job. What advice would you give someone who's feeling like you, or feeling trapped or bored or stuck, and they're longing to do what you did? What would you recommend, or what advice would you give?
So looking back, my journey has been very helpful for me to help other people do the same thing, to embrace their own authenticity, because this is really what we're talking about. This is really about acknowledging who you are and your feelings. When I look back at this situation, I had been at the spa for so long, didn't like it, but didn't quite trust my ability or that I would get enough clients to sustain myself financially, just doing this full time. So I had actually quit this. I had scaled down my days at the spa, and then I worked in a cannabis plant to learn how to process cannabis. The laws have changed. This is now possible. And I thought, this would be really good for me because it would allow me to make lots of money and learn how to do this. So I went into that place where I learned how to do this, and I do not smoke cannabis. It's not my thing. But I was in this place that was just, it was kind of ugly. It was loud. It was not a good environment for me. But I kept telling myself to just go because it made sense. I got paid well. I worked on my resume. It would be a good thing. At the same time, ignoring my feelings. So I found myself in my car on my way to work, being late all the time, and just listening to Gabriel Bernstein and Dr. Michael Beckwith on my phone on the way to work to sort of boost my morale, to sort of stick it out. I was actually speaking on the phone with Kathy Bird that we were talking, and she said something, and that made me realize that what I was doing I was denying myself my feelings, and that they were accurate signals telling me something about my life, that there was something going on that was not in alignment with who I am, that this place where I worked at was not doing me any service, it was not good, even though I had been holding on to these external validations of, once I get, work on my resume, or once I get the skills down, or I can work in different places, or I know how to do this, and I would have more money, and then I would have more freedom. So it was kind of the carrot on the stick kind of thing, where you just keep chasing after something that might not feel good right now, but there's sort of a reward at the end of it. So in that moment, I acknowledged my own feelings and said, look, this just doesn't feel good to me right now. I can't do this. So I'm going to let this go. And so right after that phone call with Kathy Bird, that made me realize that I wasn't acknowledging my feelings. I called my employer and said, look, I can't do this anymore. This is done. It's not for me. It's not right for me. And so I did that. I let go. And so advice for people is to trust your instincts, to trust your intuition, to trust your feelings. So if you don't know what your intuition is, what your feelings are, what your instinct is, then that's where you start. You take some time apart from other people, from your job. You build in spaces of solitude, of quiet, where you learn to listen to your heart. Now, if you know what brings you joy, that is your truth. Our life purpose is being fully expressed joyfully, because it feels good. It feels good to be in your freedom, in your authenticity. And that will never happen by chasing after external validation or external security. It will happen when you start to build relationship with these parts of yourself that you were conditioned to shut down as a result of upbringing, in certain circumstances in the family and being part of cultures. There is no ism or religion or category or way of thinking out there that completely captures you as you are. You are a unique expression of God's source and creator. You are the point the universe is trying to make. You can fully load it and fully code it to live your purpose. And living your purpose is you doing God as you. So instead of shutting all of that down, making parts of yourself not good enough, including those feelings that I've been mentioning in myself, your journey is about relating back to all these parts, to embrace them, to parent them back into the wholeness of who you are. And when you do that, you regain a sense of confidence and worthiness and knowing that you are good enough as is. And as a result of that, the external demands or ways of trying to fit in or to get your validation, sort of this measure of codependency that I think we all deal with, it fades away. So all the have-tos and shoulds, it fades away because you have access to your worthiness and you know that you're supported because this is what you came here to be and do. And from that perspective, what would you want to do is you want to have a good time. You want to have fun. So for me, that meant going full force past life regression. And so what I've noticed is, because people wonder, like, well, what if I were to decide to do that, to follow my fun, to let go of I'll work until I get my retirement, and then I'm going to have a good time, and be miserable working towards it. People think, like, what if I were to decide right now to work on my joy? How is that going to get me money? What I've noticed is that our external experience is a reflection of our inner reality. So when we work on our relationship with ourselves, when we pivot our focus back from external factors to being willing to love ourselves and to listen to ourselves and to acknowledge ourselves, that more of that joy and self-love will show up outside of us. So it's a vibrational match to have your life match what's happening inside of you. You're regaining or recovering these parts of yourself. And the more that you get to know yourself, the more of it shows up outside of you. For me, that was the book and the level 3 certification and people coming into my life that would provide me with the ability to do sessions, doing what I love doing and to be sustained by them. That's
beautifully
my
put. I love it. You articulated that so beautifully. And I think so many people are going through that, where they are thinking or staying at jobs and careers that they hate and they feel they have to. And you just nailed it. So wonderful. So
yeah, I mean, and I would say start small, take small baby steps. So don't expect, you're going to have a joyful experience and then the money is going to come rolling in right away. This is a journey of relating back to yourself, and just like relating to another person, you're going to have to show up in that relationship and make sure that you're trustworthy and that you're listening. So that is a bit of a journey that will take some time. So do not despair if it doesn't happen right away, but keep at it. Keep loving yourself and acknowledging yourself.
yes, I concur with that. And let's talk about contrast. So you were, in this job like the spa where you were very unhappy, and then you finally step into the thing that you have passion for, where you're doing your past life regressions, and you're making a difference in the lives of others, and you're supporting yourself financially through your mission. How does that feel? Can you articulate what it's like having the other that wasn't great and then stepping into this?
It's both subtle and very tangible. I felt, I had always had a level of depression, feeling sort of boxed in, and so when I started doing this full time, I felt so supported in being me, like that, and it was just, I could finally do what I felt like I came here to do, and so I felt supported, and it was just wonderful, coming from years and years and years of trying to look for places that I didn't quite fit into, and trying to make myself fit into places that felt yucky and not good to me. So now I had more dominion over my own life. There was sovereignty, there was freedom, there was more authenticity and self-expression. I could do what I love to do every day, which is very different from feeling boxed in as a spa manager or all the other jobs that I've had, where you're sort of, you're working for somebody else, you're working in somebody else's shop, and you're supporting their backbone. So you're in a tight box of what you can and cannot do, and so this felt more self-expressed, being a past life regressionist.
Yeah, and again, when we step into our mission, that is what is available to us. That is the benefit that we get, and you've articulated it beautifully. So,
thank you.
You had said something else that I thought was really beautiful when we had last spoken. You said you midwife people to their authenticity. You assist them to turn on the pilot of self-love. Say more about that and the benefits that your clients have experienced by doing past life regression.
Yeah, so I found out that I use all the modalities that I now practice. So I work with people in past life regressions every day, but I also facilitate meditations and do energy healing. So all of that I use, and also giving talks and doing group regression. This is what I want for people, because I have experienced the benefit of what it's like to start to trust yourself, and the expansion that happens, and the joy and the authenticity and the freedom of no longer having to fit in or to be for others or to people please or to be codependent. And this is what I want to facilitate. And having gone a measure of that journey from feeling disempowered and not being, not feeling like I was part of life or not doing what I was supposed to be doing, to now to be doing that to a much greater extent. I hold that medicine, that vibration for people to do the same thing or to help them with that. And that's what I want, because when they do that, they can in turn inspire other people. So it's almost like we're building this sort of network of people that sort of the light goes on and then they inspire other people. And that's really what I want for the world, because I think when we're all in our authenticity, when we are God's love or creator's love or whatever word you have for that, we're expressing God as ourselves, and we're no longer dependent on external limited ways of thinking. We can really bring change about in this world. With now being resources for love instead of for judgment and limitation. So, I facilitate as much as I can within the confines of, doing QHHT and the meditations and my talks and group progressions and energy healing. So, I either help people to find their pilot light and turn it on, or if it's already on, then to fuel the flames and turn it into a big blaze of authenticity and self-awareness.
I love that, because that's so needed in the world today. So I love that you're doing that. And then can you speak to or talk about the benefits that your clients experience by doing past life regression? And tell us a little bit more about past life regression for people who are not entirely familiar with it.
Sure. So it used to be called past life regression, but it's now called Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, because past life regression was too limited of a term. So the whole point of it for people is to connect to their higher knowing, to feel that light, their own magnificence, and to do this in a session. And it's our higher consciousness will bring forth the most appropriate scenes for a person to experience. And we found out it's not just past lives, it's also future lives, concurrent lives, parallel lives, like odd experiences, alien lives. It can be anything. Galactic lives, energy beings, it's all possible. And it's not just like for past life tourism, purposes to find out and to be curious, but it's also about, first and foremost, it's about healing the current life. So people come in with questions about challenges in their current lifetime, so that's what they're trying to get answers to and healing for. And this is the aim, the goal, and this is what happens. So depending on what people come in for, whether it be physical issues or emotional issues or relationships or which way to go in my life, what is my life purpose, or why did I have these weird experiences in the past that cannot be explained by, the limited cultural thinking that we have going on right now. So people, meeting angels or space beings or, having all kinds of paranormal experiences that they can place or frame, and wanted to get clarity about this. And so it's super helpful for people to come in and to get the answers from their own higher consciousness, because it's very adept in describing like what's the purpose and what's happening, and if healing is appropriate, then healing is given. Like I worked with a woman with lupus just a couple of days back, and the healing was given, and all kinds of healing is possible.
So did she heal the lupus? Is that what you were saying, or?
This happens, yeah. I mean, these healings, all the practitioners experience this stuff healing. Like actually, she was given healing to an extent, and then she would have to make some lifestyle changes, and the rest of it would be gone.
Wonderful. I know I've enjoyed.
This stuff really happens.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing past life sessions myself.
You have done them, right?
Yes. And I really enjoyed the information that came through. One more thing, like you said, you have been booked up. You're doing the individual sessions. You're doing group sessions. You've also taught a course, and you said that you have a message to share. What is that message that you want to share?
Oh, thank you. So that is the message that we kind of talked about, that we're not here to fit in, to be boxed in, to live a boxed-in life, but that we're all here to express God as us. So meaning we're all different expressions of Source, and we can, and we're supposed to express that way, or else we will come in looking the same and having similar lives. So you might have noticed that this is not the kind of thinking that has been in our culture. No, the culture here in the United States, where there is a preference for a certain race, a certain gender, a certain sexuality, there's a certain a group of people that have more privileges than others and then seen as more full than others. And so that is not a very life-affirming way of approaching life, because we're all different. We're also women, we're people of color, we're gay, we're transgender, different sexualities, different ways of expressing, and this is how it's supposed to be. So instead of trusting the internalized self-judgment, say, about your body shape or about your gender or your sexuality, these are really your vehicles for empowerment. When you learn to embrace the you-ness of you, and this is really, you doing God, choice creator in your particular way, the more that you do that, the more that you become aligned with the light that you are. So instead of being in self-judgment and splitting your own light by this self-judgment, regaining or recovering all these parts of yourself so you can be fully present with you as an expression of God, of Source Creator, and all the magnificence that comes from it. And so this is authenticity, this is freedom in your life, this is healing, and in turn, being that beacon of light, you inspire others to do the same thing, and you can help them in your own joyful way, because when you have access to all of that, you have access to your genius, what makes you specific, and you can, use your genius that is different from other people's geniuses to contribute, to help other people, to serve in your way. So instead of self-sacrifice, like the old religious or Catholic ways of serving, you need to do things that you don't really like to do for other people, not that. You're here to serve as you, as your light. So you better get on with, embracing all of you, instead of denying yourself the wonders of your own identity, of who you are, your uniqueness.
Oh, beautifully put, beautifully put. I thank you for that. Is there any last thing that you'd like to add? We're coming to the end of our program.
I felt like that, like I just blurted it all out. Yeah, and because I used to be raised a Catholic, so that's why I mentioned Catholicism, because that's what I know in terms of religious upbringing. What do I want to share? I think I shared.
Yes, and I can relate to that.
This is my message, and yeah, I know.
We have that in common.
Yeah. So no, I don't think I have anything else to share. Do you have any questions?
Well, we've come to the end of the program. I thank you so much, Jeroen de Wit, for joining us and everything that you have shared. It's very powerful. Thank you for letting your light shine and for making a difference in the lives of others and for inspiring us today. You've certainly inspired me. And if people want to learn more about you and your work, where can they go?
So they can find me on Instagram. It's the easy way to find me. It's my name, Jeroen is Love. That's my affirmation. So JeroenIslove on Instagram, or my website is JeroenQHHT.com, JeroenQHHT.com. If you're interested in sampling this regression, business, then I do regular group regressions around the Los Angeles area, at Liberate Hollywood, at the Den in Studio City, at the Den on La Brea, at Bindu Point, and also at the Mindery in Malibu. So you can check their schedules and find out whenever I'm there.
Fantastic. So this wraps up the hour. And to everyone out there, keep gathering the clues to your mission possible. This week, ask your intuitive self, for what purpose was I born? Keep asking the question until you receive the answer. I'm your host, Carolann Fernandes. This has been Mission Possible Program. Tune in next week when we speak to artist Michael Aubrey, who gave up a successful career and stepped into his true calling. I leave you with this quote by Mark Twain: "The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Mission Possible Program. Please join your host, Carolann Fernandes, for another edition of the program next Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Until